family. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me get this out the way. Hope y'all doing okay this morning. Hold on, hold on. AI, move your ass. Hey, D Harris. Where's my mic? Okay. Um, this isn't going to be anything major. Um, I'm doing some stuff this morning, so I figured I might as well talk while I'm doing it. But if y'all were around yesterday, they tried hard not to get that information out or let that information be presented on the Constitution. And it's kind of funny. I mean, Sister Bethy's going to come live today, and I'm going to be in the chat. I'm not necessarily going to be on the panel or anything like that. I mean, I may. But for the most part, this info about the 1776 project and the 1619 project, I'm still there. Okay. If you guys read my stuff, I'm still there. But it's going to be difficult to really unpack this because, in my opinion, we have so many obstacles against us. Mind you, I'm not on I'm for Biden or I'm for Trump or Democrats or Republicans or whatever. It's just going to seem that way. Okay. And that's going to allow a lot of people to have their opinions as to what this is and continue what I call myth making by overarching concepts on social media. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit difficult because things, there are points that come out here that are relevant and then they get tabled, just like the 1776 project did. Um, or, they get overran by other information. And that's kind of what I saw yesterday but it wasn't me up there trying to get that out. And I understand how Sister Bethy operates, what she does. So it's cool. But they worked hard not to get that information out. Um, just my opinion. Y'all don't have to take it as total truth. It's just my opinion, my observation. But as I woke up this morning, I was looking at grabbed some videos. I saw, somebody was live and listened to a little bit of his and kind of jumping around in there. Hold on one second. Kind of jumped around in the stream, and there was like this part where the brother kind of went into some myth making, okay, without giving any details, went into some myth making and storytelling, okay, in relationship to the biblical text and the United States. And y'all can figure out who that is, okay? No shade on him, I threw him a kiss yesterday, okay? But anyway, so this is something that I don't want you guys to miss as we move forward, as I move forward and you guys listen, because, um, you know, people are going to yell fire from the bleachers, okay? And that can come in any shade, if you would, any subject matter or whatever the case is, okay? Um, so some of the information, it may lose its steam, but I don't want it to really lose its steam because what we're talking about is the proper education of our children and our young people outside of the ideologies. If you guys listen to me read the 1719 project, you heard me have these little contentions with the biblical text or the religious fever that was in there. Fervor that was in there. And I said, set that aside because there's some things that I kind of want to unpack about the religious leanings and gleanings that we have with the politics. And it makes it very hard because, and this is no shot on the brother at all, or this other brother, but just put it like this. If we're trying to expose a concept, a metaphor, analogy, or anything that has any leanings toward Christianity or other religions, I'll put it like that, then, to say, to throw this blanket out here that all religions this and all of them are doing that and all of them, that may be true, but it also takes away from the information because you give people permission not to look into it. I don't know if it's for the sake of just thinking because if they had looked into it, they're going to automatically believe the religion. In some aspects, we act like we can't get away from that, um, or that we can get away from that. And in many aspects, we don't because it is very much ingrained in our culture. Okay. um, I can't tell you what it means to be raised irreligious because I wasn't raised irreligious. Okay. But that's not what this is about. Hold on a second. I'm still trying to clear my lungs out. I apologize. Okay. So this is something that I saw today. Um, okay. Wait. So on one leg we have it's political. It's Republicans and Democrats in the political arena and all of this stuff. And I'm like, no, it's education. Okay. On another end, it's black and it's white and it's brown and it's yellow and it's, you know, more and the Indian and the no, that ain't what it is either. Okay. As they say, intelligent people talk about ideas, while less intelligent people talk about people. Okay. On the other side of that, it's the religious narrative. And I saw something today, and I don't know how this is going to work in the future because I'm looking at what I'm looking at. I'm gravitating towards what I'm gravitating to, and it's all coming from what I'm seeing on social media and the internet, um, YouTube, if you would. So it's this it's this guy. How can I put this? It's this guy up here. It's called Middle Nation. The channel is Middle Nation. And I'm gonna put, and I'm kind of, this is the reason why I'm doing this stream as well, because I'm gonna put him on my community tab, but I don't want anybody to really look at this along the religious lines. Because when I went over there, I was like, oh shit, I really like what he got to say, but now you're getting ready to slide me all over here into a Muslim way of thinking. And I'm not mad at Muslims. I'm not mad at Christians. I'm not mad at folks like that. But I just thought it was kind of ironic that to go over here and hear the truth of what he's talking about as far as the history and where we are in America has to be done under a Muslim banner, if you would. And the person that was actually presenting this information has a lot of Africa leanings. I'm like, some of our folks are just going, they slow, they going to gravitate to the lowest rung. Like I said, I'm not swinging for monkey bars. Okay. So when you say Muslim and Africa, and here we go, and the same people or people like the people that tried to stop that information yesterday because of their own agendas are going to be the cream that rises to the top for whatever reasons, because we're dealing with propaganda in a lot of ways, and we have to really filter, again, be discerning to go through the truth of certain things. So I found out that the guy that I want you guys to listen to is Muslim. Okay, I'm not. Okay, I studied a little bit with the Moors. I don't, but I'm not Muslim. Okay, not like that. Not a devout Muslim or anything. But he presents some good cases or some good arguments, regardless of where he comes from. But I'm not doing this because we're African. That is not where I'm doing this. Okay, or presenting him, and I don't want y'all to make that mistake. Then another video popped up that I was looking at, and I was like, well, shit, how come they're not talking about this? Just like people not talking about the 1776 project, uh, most people aren't talking about Mayweather's financial problems right now. Okay. And I wouldn't even really touched on that. First of all, the person that's presenting it, most people hate the guy. I think it was Stephen A or something like that, and he gets on my damn nerves. Okay, but I listened to the presentation on Mayweather, and it was some stuff that I didn't know. Floyd Money Mayweather and all this stuff. I knew that part. It didn't really interest me, but as I was looking at it, I was like, oh damn, Floyd Mayweather is a Hebrew Israelite. Maybe that's why nobody's talking about it. Okay. That's another issue, okay, because that's rolling around here too. Um, One of the things that really, made my antenna stand up was when, they talk about Floyd Mayweather and some uh, cryptocurrency issues. And I remember a while ago, it didn't get much traction either, that, you know, Shaquille O'Neal and a few other basketball players participated in some crypto stuff that didn't quite pan out because they were targeted. Um, but they didn't really go into Floyd Mayweather with this crypto thing as in him being taken by anybody. But what they more so said was along the lines of uh, a lot of his stuff has been media hype, um, and this lavish lifestyle that he has um, is all show and you know, good marketing strategies, if you would. Hey, Alexis and Focus Mind. And so I was like, I ain't trying to be religious, but ain't folks supposed to, kind of be pious to a certain extent or whatever the case is? But I know that, that goes here nor there, so and so was the richest man in the Bible and all that bullshit. So that might not last, but being fake does. Okay. And that goes to what I'm talking about, not these other folks, but the fact that we have been dealing with propaganda in as much as people have been pushing the 1619 project as opposed to the 1776, and then they get butthurt as soon as you say Trump. Okay, rather than looking at the substance behind this particular thing, they throw the Trump blanket on it to try to Trump what you talking about. But um, the education of our people is important. It's very, very important because we know that they have mythologized, I think that's the word, a lot of the history. And the one dude from Middle Nation kind of goes into that. I mean, he's a good spokesman for what's going on. And so I really want y'all to take a look at him because in some ways, I get it. I like y'all. Hopefully y'all like me. I know some people can't stand me and rather wish I would disappear or something like that because I'm not approved. Okay. But whatever it is. Um, but sometimes we stay so in our familiarity, if you would, and I'm gonna say in our hood, in our neighborhood, clustered together, if you would, that we don't really want to venture out to look at other neighborhoods, if you would. For various reasons. And one of the biggest reasons that we use as a people, some of us, not all of us, but some of us, and me to a certain extent too, is, well, my skin is like this, so I'm gonna stay with people that look like this. And like, we can't go and look at no another person that is not of our same hue. It's got to be in this same little group right here. Okay. And so I'm thinking that we need to venture out a little bit. Not that you guys don't, because some people are putting this information out here. But y'all need to look at what this dude has to say. If you have it, the channel is Middle Nation, okay? And it has some, again, Muslim leanings, but I want y'all to reject any of the religious parts of it if you can. try hard not to push that forward, and try harder not to get into conversations when people are pushing that, because it clouds the issue. And, it's like, if y'all seen it online, we can be up here talking this, that, and the other, and somebody say Bible. And of course, if they say something about it wrong or don't sit logically, yeah, I'll say something. But then you can notice that later on in that stream, it steadies some shit about God and the Bible, whether it's we're gods and goddesses, or, we're the gods, and, you know, whatever the fuck. Um, all of that, um, it continually comes in, because we have this leaning, this gleaning, this void, this place in us that we feel needs to be filled with these divine revelations and this, that, and the other, all that stuff. Now, I know it may be a little difficult to understand what I'm trying to say, because I'm pacing and saying it as best as I can. But here's the trip. Here's the trip about it. My coffee wasn't that good this morning. It was a little weak. But the trippy thing about it is that here you have Middle Nation that's going with the Islam thing, okay, Muslim thing, and the guy presenting it is African, okay, or got some Africa leanings, right? Then you got Floyd Mayweather on his bankruptcy and living large and media hype, if you would. He's a Hebrew Israelite because he's wearing all of that shit, or a Jew, whichever one you want to take, okay? Then you have the stuff about the Constitution that we presented. And I know y'all heard, if you listen, because I know it was 70 some people that looked at that stream. Then you have all of that talking about the Christian shit, right? That what God, God this, God that. But in the interim, based on the Constitution, it's nature's law and nature's God. And this is where the problem comes in for us, because it goes way away from the Constitution in many regards, because now we want to talk about a belief system that has been pretty much given to us by a literary system and a journalism system, and um, put out here to the public through literature, newspapers, um, the news, and the church and the school. And it's a lot that has to be unraveled to get through there. Like I say, I dance on complex scenes. So y'all got to dance. Y'all gonna have to shuffle through here, 2 steps this way and one that way, maybe a back step, whatever, to get through some of this stuff, because we have been bombarded with a lot of um, less than true historical accounts, and not been given the complete story of our history. I'm convinced of that. Okay, I can't prove every little jot and tittle and all this, but I'm totally convinced that we have been miseducated and indoctrinated, and I know that many of you will say the same. Okay, now, not only do you have Floyd Mayweather with his, but then you have this other thing that kind of popped up this morning that I thought was really funny. And not funny as in I'm going to really ridicule anyone, but because life is life, and y'all, life is life. I don't know the man, but the death of the Pope today, or yesterday, one or two, I think Easter was yesterday. And I said, this is going to be the most expensive Easter with the price of eggs right now in world history. My thought. I haven't looked at no statistics, but and then he passes away. So there's a proclivity right now to rest on our laurels and fall back into any religious narrative. They want heroes. They want us to put heroes up here so that we won't look at other things. Because while all the things are going on that's going on here, you have this one brother that's actually breaking down the damn truth about what the fuck happened. Okay. But because people are anti-Trumpers, if you would, you know, um, they're probably not going to listen to him. Okay. So, what y'all in here doing? Hey, Black Wall Indian. Okay. So, these were just some thoughts that I was having this morning because, like I said, I want to put him up on my channel. I really want to play him, but y'all know how this shit go on social media. They're gonna strike it, gonna strike your channel down. Oh, that's the wrong account. Hold on a second, y'all. Shit. Let's see if we can change accounts. Um, I'm gonna try to show it to y'all in just a minute if I can. Damn it. This way. I hate these newfangled ass TVs. No, I don't. Um, Let me see if I can find Homeboy's channel. Just to show y'all. Y'all need to listen to this dude. Uh, where is he at? Where the hell did y'all go? Okay, it should be right here. Okay, there he is. Yeah, I keep my subscriptions private. Because everybody don't need to know everything about everybody. You know, what y'all doing? What you say? That's funny because rabbits don't lay. No, they don't. Beast mode. I mean, not beast mode, but Beast the Bird had me laughing when he said the. What do you say? The bear wiped his ass with a bunny. Thought he was wiping his ass with a bunny and found out it was a porcupine. I was cracking up. I was like, yeah, that's about the way the conversation is right now. Because y'all thought that shit was gonna work, or certain people thought that was gonna work. Let me show you this guy real quick. I'm trying to show y'all too much, but see if we can open up my camera. Hopefully y'all won't see me. Okay, there you go. So this guy right here, he's got a lot of videos that you guys might want to check out. Um, I would recommend subscribing to his channel. Where's the remote? The fuck did I put the remote? Probably in the kitchen. Okay. Yeah, let me go get it. Ain't trying to show y'all my whole house, so just keep looking at the TV. Okay, look at the ceiling. Okay, look at the rest of the ceiling. Okay. I ain't trying to show y'all all of that. Okay. But anyway, so this guy, he's got a lot of stuff that you guys might want to check out. There was one in here for the ladies where it talked about how women are just objects in the Western world. Again, I want y'all to miss some of the religious leanings, if you would, even the Palestinian leanings, because there's one in here on Palestine. And just look at what he's saying about history. Okay, like, and here's the thing, and the double on it. Okay, like this one right here. Shit. Okay, that's backwards for y'all. Y'all can't see that. Man. Okay, let's try it this way. See if it works this way. I don't want to flip my camera over. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm glad I covered that shit up. Anyway, it's backwards. But the controlled demolition of America. America suffers biggest traffickist or terrorist attack in history, right? And when I was looking at that, listening to that, just the beginning parts of it, I was like, he's kind of sounding like he's anti-Trump. Okay. And I was like, that's why I really wanted to come up here and say something about this before I posted it, because it ain't about Trump and it ain't about the little nuances that people do to scare you. Okay. All of this is going to fall apart because Trump is doing this. When I'm presenting these things at this particular point, unless I say otherwise and I try to tell y'all what's going on with me, this is about the 1776 project. And the fact that while they were talking about the 1619 project and the miseducation that went on, um, critical race theory, identity politics, all of that was going on, they tabled the 1776, which is directly related to the Constitution and the things that we're trying to analyze about the Constitution. But some people don't want you there, which you should have been able to see on yesterday if you had eyes to see that. Okay. Um, and in doing that, what what happens with the 1776 project, them tabling that project and the game that was played. Y'all remember the game that was played? Biden's executive order 13985 versus Trump's executive order. Wait, did I say that right? Biden's executive order 13985 versus Trump's executive order 13958. That little inversion on the numbers, okay, um, lets you know that they're playing with you. This is not happenstance. And it's just that simple for them to play with you. So here you have a man that's actually saying something really good to wake us up, but yet it's in my opinion, an anti-Trump vein. I don't give a fuck about Trump. I don't give a fuck about Biden. Okay. What this is about the people, because what some people are not going to understand right now is that in the 1776 project, what we're talking about, we still have shit to do. And that what we have to do is to educate, to help erudite, okay, to wake up, if you would, the generation today and those to come. Okay. It ain't changed. It's been the same thing for at least 10, 12 years since I've been here. It's the same thing. But we're still having the same discussions and the same problems that we had 10 to 12 years ago that we're having today. So it tells me that something isn't working, and somebody keep throwing a monkey wrench in this bitch. Okay? So it ain't about Trump. It ain't about Biden. It's about educating the children, because that's the push forward. Okay, outside of your racism, outside of your prejudice, outside of your economics, your hatreds, your fears, and all of that. It's about trying to help to re-educate a people. And it's not read this book and believe it and read that book, because I got to read some classics my damn self. Okay, but it's about reading those things and then understanding, hey, what parts of this book were true? What parts of this book were not true? What was fabricated to make us believe something, and what were we being pushed to believe? Okay, because there was a lot of myth making. All right, a lot of myth making. Um, and so, this is going to help a lot of our people here who listen to these streams and listen to us in this community on this side of the aisle, if you would, to get back into the fight, because they don't think that we're worthy of the fight. That's why they play with us so much. I'm looking at one of these books that I just got, because I think this would be a good time to take a moment and read that part on America, media and literature, or the like. Okay, hey Beast. All right. Hey Copper Goddess. Peace to you guys. Hey Gene Mart. Okay, who else we got in here? You said golden age, golden age, golden egg. I hear you. Okay. All right. So while I'm thinking about it, so that's that. I want y'all to take a look at Middle Nation. This will add to the conversation, and it might challenge a few folks who want you to stay in the same vein and would rather just give you another myth to look at, some overarching concept. Um, or something, or I've been here so long that you can't go against me because we did it all, and back in the day we did this, and blah blah blah. Shut up. Okay, y'all did so much, y'all should be in an advisory position, not fighting for first position. Okay. So and I know Bethy's going up today. I'm gonna be in the chat because I think that's the best place for me to be over there. But I told y'all I wanted to read y'all something, and I hadn't planned on doing this. Uh, but we're not going to read the whole thing. I want to read this next section, just a few pages from Washington Irving. Like I said, what part of the stories are true? Where did they get these stories from? What was the purpose of telling us whatever it was that they told us? Now, I don't want to attack y'all sensibilities too much by reading into some of these other poems that were here, but it's a part on American media, I think it is. Okay, I'm missing it. Okay, I thought I didn't read that part. Oh, okay, I remember. Um, it's this part right here. Okay, this is just a few pages. Just a few pages. Well, more than a few pages. Okay. Uh, what is this? 97 to 106. And if you guys, I have no idea what WYS means, but I don't know. Okay. Anyway, it says English writers on America. Somebody asked a question in passing last night because I was just passing through. Um, about the writers over here. Did we write about anything, this, that, and the other? And I was sitting up here looking at the books that I just purchased. Yeah, I don't know. I lucked up on a bunch of stuff, but I went with a lot of the classics just to give y'all a couple of the titles that I have. Okay, just to go here for a second that I just picked up. And yes, I am building bookshelves. So I got one up. I got to put the other one up. And y'all might laugh at some of these titles, but I think I'm trying to figure this shit out. Okay, so we got the complete works of Tacitus. We have major British writers by Harcourt, Brace, and World. And some of those writers will be uh, Chaucer, Spenser, Shakespeare, Bacon, Donne, or Donne, however they're saying that, Milton, Dryden, Swift, Pope, Johnson, and Boswell. So I was curious because as we found out with the 1719 Project, that when they talked about republicanism and having a republic, that this isn't the first place that has tried a republic to have a republic, but republics fail for certain reasons. And this delicate balance that we have in America to try to keep a republic is what has been being attacked. Okay. And some people got their coattail pulled in that 1776 book reading because they didn't start talking about democracy until they start going over there trying to give democracy to other places. Okay. But we are a republic. Okay. Then I have one. Here's one from the New York Public Library called the American History Desk Reference. The thing I noticed about this, and this is where the myth making also comes in at, that one has a lot of dates and things that happen at certain times. And that's going to be fun because as folks online start to talk about different things, I'm going to be going through that book to see what was happening at a particular time. Okay. But what's interesting about this, I said, now y'all know that, there's some Boones in my family, right? So three famous Boones. Okay. Herman Boone in Remember the Titans. That's my cousin. Then you have the official story of Daniel Boone. And we know that him and them folks slid down into Arkansas. Okay. Um, And then we have Thomas Boone from the Lord's Proprietors over there in the Carolinas, and looks like he just took off and went back wherever the hell he came from. Okay, and then you get Berkeley and all of them when that comes out. So, oh, and then the other story of the 1790 census, where they say there's a Daniel Boone there that they have as being a Negro. Okay. And I know my family, the ones I know they're officially those people, and screw what folks are saying about you got your slave master's name. Shut the hell up. Okay. But what I noticed about this American history reference book is everything is not in there. I said, let me go see what they say about that name. Okay. you know, and the only thing that was in there was Daniel Boone. I said, okay, these are going to be the official stories. See, everybody had a story. A lot of people are like yesterday when y'all were talking, they got to talking about the 13 colonies. And I said the 13 colonies and the several states. And, by the time Alabama got up there, it got kind of confusing because it was a matter of none of that existed in 1619 and 1776 and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but did the people live in the middle of this country during that time? So you saying none of that shit existed? Regardless of what legislation they were making on the East Coast and who those people were tied to, you trying to say we wasn't over there? You trying to say we were not over there? Okay, I'm like, we were in it, we were out of it. Okay, we were on both sides of everything. Okay, and that's been the problem. So um, there are other stories that need to come out, and that's what the 1776 project is, in my opinion. Y'all saw what they said about it, okay? But when it comes to us, how do we maneuver in this? How do we fix this? How do we safeguard the information that we want to give? Or do we sit on our laurels and go, look what they did to us and look what they're doing and this is what they're trying to do and blah 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 blah, and we should, but we never do. This is an ample opportunity for us to do something because they tabled that shit in 2021. But Trump is coming out talking about, and I didn't vote, okay? And I wasn't with his ass for a minute. But he's coming out talking about the school systems, and we know we've been indoctrinated. I know a lot of y'all remember when they talked about the people who were running the educational system and down there in Texas, some Jewish folks who knew that the shit was bullshit, but wasn't nobody trying to fix it. And this was maybe 8 years ago. Okay. So we have an ample opportunity to do on social media and within our own groups what needs to be done if y'all stop playing games. I can't see the phone, but let me tell you some of the other titles for the books. Okay, so we got a story to tell too. I found the Aeneid, or yeah, Aeneid, Virgil's great epic poem concerning the adventures of the Trojan hero Aeneas in the new translation by Patrick Dickinson. Because I'm curious about the classics. Again, they said that this is not it's a new republic, but they're trying not to have the same old problems that other republics are having. And this is directly where the classics and the classical antiquity comes into play. Because every time we get over here and start talking about us in classic times or antiquity, we start losing shit. Like one brother, and I no shade on the brother because I haven't looked at the post totally that he had sent, the book he had sent. But when we were talking about, um, damn, it was something we were talking about, and he dropped this book, in the chat, and I went and peeped at it. I'm like, okay, you're talking about sciences and uh, mountain ranges, the landscape and this, that, and the other. I want to know about the people, and what's very hard is knowing about the people. Excuse me, you guys. Springtime, I get allergies. Um, you know, like how we'll talk about, oh, they were Algonquin, and then if you push that far enough, you're gonna start talking about the Pliocene, Miocene, all these different periods and times and rock formations and ice age and all that other shit. I want to know about the people. Okay. So anyway, let's continue. I found Beowulf, which will be an interesting read. I have a book called by Morris Klein called Mathematics for Non-Mathematicians. Yeah, I shouldn't even tell y'all what the name of this one is because it came from Barnes and Noble. But it is The Symbols of Freemasonry because I was curious about that. We have Bennett's third edition. These came from the library. Bennett's third edition Reader's Encyclopedia. This is the classical and only encyclopedia of world literature in a single volume, including poets, playwrights, novelists, and belletrists. Synopsises, historical data, major characters in literature, myths, and legends, literary terms, artistic movements, and prize winners. So that's a good resource book right there. Y'all might laugh at this next book that I found. It is called Chancer. Remember, Chancer was mentioned in the major British writers, but Chancer's The Canterbury Tales. Y'all may laugh at me about that one. I'd rather read that than open an Easter egg. Okay. Then I found one that caught my curiosity because it's a certain section in my book collection that this will fit in with. It's called The Queens of Henry the Eighth. Six Wives, the Queens of Henry the Eighth. So that might be interesting. Then we have the book that we read the other day, very small book. The 1776 Project, the President's Advisory, 1776 Commission, January 2021. Okay, then we have, and I only got two more that I picked up in this little shopping spree, and that would be, oh no, I got another one. I take that back. Jefferson Davis American by William J. Cooper Jr. This is a big mm, three, about 3-inch book that will be very interesting to me, even if not to you. And what I found interesting in here, anybody ever notice how closely Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln look to be alike? Maybe y'all didn't see that. I got questions. Okay, I think we were seriously lied to. What y'all talking about in here? Okay, what y'all? Hey, Enots. Okay, let me take the phone back there with me. I can't get that little link out of there, and it's just gonna stay. Yeah, it's gonna stay if I put it in there. I should have left it alone. Thank you, Beast. Okay, and then the other one that caught my attention was the Nag Hammadi Library, and this one, I think I know what it is, but in there it says an absolute gold mine of literature of Gnosticism. The definitive, this is a revised edition by James M. Robertson, and it's the definitive new translation of the Gnostic scriptures, complete in one volume. So I'm gonna love unpacking these, and y'all have no idea what the other books are that I have in my library that I was looking to get out of storage, and I'm glad that they didn't get water damage like the rest of my shit did. Whew, I'm glad I put them in a plastic container. Okay. But now this other one, these other books that I found, sorry, these other books that I found these at a thrift store. Luckily, and I got to go back to see if they have any more in this collection. Um, they are the best of the world's classics. And just to give you some titles that caught my attention, and I was like, oh, let me just grab these. And being only 25 cents a piece, I was happy to grab them. Okay. Um, so here's some of the titles that I'm looking at. Great Britain and Ireland, volume number. Do I have one in here? No, I don't have one. I got to go back. Yeah. Okay, I got Great Britain and Ireland Part 2. Then I have Great Britain and Ireland Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4. Then we have Germany, Austria, Switzerland Part 2. We have Italy and Greece Part 1 and Italy and Greece Part 2. And then the last one that was in this stuff that I picked up is Rome. Okay. And they're not big books at all. Um, you probably can put them in your breast coat, brothers. But it's are all of them by the same person? These, and if you guys are trying to find out what set this is, and I probably need to look this up to see if there's some more sets or some more in them. But this is by Francis, or edited by Francis W. Halsey, Halsey. So these are going to be some good little short reads to, they're little books to read. They are not big at all. This is not like I'm getting ready to get all the answers of that time and period, but just a little bit of a little bit of information. I haven't eaten breakfast. My stomach is talking to me. Um, just a little bit of information on particular times that were going on. Like it talked about the one on Rome. Just perusing it a little bit, it talked about like Cicero in there, and it talked about the I think of the invasion by Britain or something like that. I mean, it has pictures in here and stuff, and I thought that would be cute because folks be like, "You take my picture, copyright strike." Yeah, shut the hell up. Okay. Let me see if get back to the just looking at the Rome book. It's going from 234 BC to 180 AD. Like I said, it's not a big volume book, but it's some good names in here. Like I said, they got Cicero in here. They got Julius Caesar, and that's the one that caught my attention because it talks about the invasion of Britain um, from book number 5 of the commentaries on the Gaelic War, translated by McDevitt and Bond, if you would. But some of them little names, people that go under the radar that we haven't heard too much about or before, they're going to be in these books. And it's just a precursor. It's a little jump off like, hey, you want to know about this? Boom. Let's go on that. And I'm not an avid reader. Okay. So y'all can't go, hey, Navi, you got anything on da 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 da? I am not a librarian. I'm an enthusiast. Okay. All right. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah, they do. If you can find a good one. This new education is probably getting rid of all those books Navi's reading. Don't make me take your damn wrench. Okay. Um, it's just peering through the information. Like I said, a lot of us didn't get the classics. If you went to college and you did literature and you read the shit and you did good in high school in your literature class and you read all that shit they told you, more power to you. Everybody ain't like that. And some people need a little bit of fucking help. Okay. Like I said, don't blanket shit. All right. And I hope I read you the right way because sometimes reading these words on the page can be kind of fucked up, misinterpreted. Okay. So I hope I read you the right way, Gene Martin. Okay. But look at them to see what they are. And, when it comes to me finding out, hey, were they telling us the truth about this situation, or were they making up a story? And even in the making up a story, that's why I wouldn't throw them out. Okay. In making up the story, at least not now. I threw out a whole bunch of them some years ago, but that was on the Christian tip. But the other thing about looking at these books is, why did they tell us that? And is there a pattern in what they're telling us? And can we recognize the pattern? Like I said, with this dude, Middle Nation, if you would, he talked about that as well. He said, we don't know our history. And because of us not knowing our history, being lied to and not knowing our history and, being low on the totem pole of that information, we end up repeating history and don't even know that we're repeating it. But people who have read the history know that we're repeating it. We have to be well informed doing all of this amongst the stuff that you are doing elsewhere. It's not, don't do this because you need to look at business and business only. No, do both if that's what you're called to do. Okay? People so lazy, they want you to merge all of it together and make it a hodgepodge and a melting pot of stuff. And then when you get fucked up, it's like, I don't know, you must have did it wrong. Okay? So I'm trying to catch my breath here because I really want to read this. Just read this one section of this book and we'll get this off. I probably should have named this. What'd you say, Martin? You always read the right way. I'm just saying this education Trump talking about is probably getting rid of old books so our kids won't have access. See, that's part of the problem. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's, I don't think that's what it is. I really don't. Okay. I think it's the way people are being told these things because as we read in 1776, the book in there, it said basically the teachers are the ones instructing the students. Let me go get the book and find the quote. They're the one, the teachers, the people that are writing the books, and they're not writing classics. They're telling you how to interpret those classics if you even get access to those classics. Okay. We need to be well versed in nuances of Homer and nuances of Locke and all of this stuff. They got us running to a particular place like Mussolini just so they can tell us about Germany and what's the other person and Hitler in there. Okay, you know, because the communists had their agenda and we're a little weak in determining the nuances between them. But let me see if I found this part right here from what we read the other day. It's been said that, quote, it's been said that whoever controls the schools rules the world. But it's more fundamental than this. Whoever writes the textbooks supplies the information that's used by teachers to teach the students in the schools. It's books and teachers that teach them who control the schools. The content of the history books, makes or breaks a curriculum. Okay, and then here's the agenda. Leftists, okay, that's what they say. Leftists want and have controlled public school textbooks for decades, and it shows in the general ignorance of the American public. They don't know about history, and what they know is cherry picked to establish a political and cultural agenda. That's the quote from the book. Okay, what'd you say about McGraw? Yeah, McGraw, and you know what's ironic, Alexis? In my family records, one of my great great aunts married a McGraw. That's why I took the SAT book that had McGraw on it instead of the other one. For those of you who didn't know, and I know we never got to the SAT book because it just looks boring as hell, but it's there. So anyway, um, yeah, that name shows up in my family, which is crazy. I wish I knew where that family member is and where they went and what their family, how it branched off and all that stuff. Okay, I'm getting ready to cough, and my lungs are not open all the way, and I'm sniffing. So yeah. So remember, the 1776 project is the counter to the 1619 project. 1619 project, didn't they say they didn't want to do critical race theory? Okay, that deals with like identity politics, and I know I didn't give it equal footing up here because I figure I already know about the 1619 project. This is when they brought all the African slaves. I ain't a slave. My family wasn't a slave. We're not slaves. Until y'all start dealing with the Slavi people in Northwest Canada, y'all can't talk to me about Europe and they damn slaves at all. You can't say shit to me. I'm looking at y'all like y'all stupid. It's interesting storytelling. Okay. Yeah, it be tripping me out. Some of the connections, even when no, their last name wasn't Hill. One of my favorite teachers in high school, her last name was Hill, and she was my science teacher. Okay. She's the one that, what you say? The information is outdated and most of it is flat out wrong. Yeah, okay, I can give you that. I give you that, Alexis. I do. But we go to school and get these. Oh, let me read this for this grade, and that's all it is. It's like we don't become them old enthusiasts that went to school and was doing all this literature, like Washington Irving. I'm like, how in the hell did you write all these damn books? Did you have anything else to do? Okay, now we got so much to do that we can't even write one. Okay. I'm trying to get my voice together so that I can read this. I really want y'all to hear this, and I think this is an appropriate time to actually talk about this. Um, English writers in America. Remember, I got the major British writers over there. Okay, because they're the ones that told the fucking stories. They're the ones that came over here and gave us the stories. But let's read. Let's see what we can find out real quick. Hope y'all got a minute. It shouldn't take long. English writers in America. This is Washington Irving, same volume we were looking at before, the sketchbook Legends of the Conquest of Spain and the Life of Washington Irving, volume 1. Okay, page number 97, right where we left off from the last one. Check this out. Quote, methinks I see in my mind a noble passant nation, rousing herself like a strong man after sleep and shaking her invincible locks. He said locks. Okay, anyway. Um, Methinks I see her as an eagle, mewing her mighty youth and kindling her in dazzled eyes at the full midday beam. And that was Milton on the liberty of the press. Remember what we're looking at as I'm going through this. Remember what the brother brought up when he started to talk about Kennedy and them, and he jumped on uh, the Scripps journalistic dynasty. Okay, and if y'all remember what I put in the chat, just to bring it back to your memory, um, we found out that Scripps was a dynasty, and we found out that uh, that particular news mogul was trying to create a monopoly or their own entity for presenting the news against the Associated Press. And the Associated Press that we have today looks like it came off of what existed before it, which was the Western Associated Press. Okay? People have got into the writing, the newspapers, the propaganda, all of this stuff, and have swayed a narrative because they, from that time, had great access. Same way that the missionaries came over here and started telling us about Jesus. Okay. But if you go into the Cherokee history book, it tells you that when they met the Cherokees, they said the Cherokees got something kind of like what we've been talking, about the Jesus character. Okay. So they didn't bring it, they just manipulated it. Okay. But let's continue. So we're looking at journalism. And also remember what we read is that the 1619 Project, they told you that the person with the New York Times that wrote that shit was a journalist and then tried to criticize the 1776 Project like they didn't know what they were doing when the 1776 Project people who did this and very recently were lawyers or were professors. Now, I'm not going to say lawyers, but were professors in, they had advanced degrees in history, law, philosophy, government, and classics versus a journalist. Okay, I want y'all to keep that in mind. But let's read. Let's read. Let's read. Milton on the liberty of the press. What is that? Our Second Amendment, right? Is that what that is? Okay. So it says, it is the feelings, and hopefully y'all won't hear too much in my lisp and my breathing. I don't know where to put this damn mic. I bought some other headphones, but um, hopefully y'all can hear me okay without all that extra. So here we go. It is with feelings of deep regret that I reserve the literary uh, animosity daily growing up between England and America. Great curiosity has been awakened of late with respect to the United States, and the London press has teemed with volumes of travels through the Republic. But, mhm, but they seem intended to, they seem intended to diffuse error rather than knowledge. And so successful have they been that notwithstanding the constant intercourse between the nations, there is no people concerning whom the great mass of British public have less pure information or entertain more numerous prejudices. English travelers are the best and the worst in the world. Where no motives of pride or interest intervene, none can equal them for profound. Let me start that again. I'm doing too much. Where's my cigarette? Where my ashtray at? Give me a second, family. Give me a second. Okay, give me a second. Let me get back to it. My page flipped. Bitch, come back here. Come back here. Where'd you go? I know it didn't flip too far. Okay, there it is. All right. Okay. English travelers are the best and the worst in the world. Where no motives of pride or interest intervene, none can equal them for profound and philosophical views of society or faithful or geographic descriptions of external objects. But when either the interest or reputation of their own country comes in collision with that of another, they go to the extreme opposite or the opposite extreme and forget their usual probity and candor and the indulgence of splenetic remark and an illiberal spirit of ridicule. Hope y'all understood what that said. I had to look up splenetic. Splenetic. I had to look that up. Okay. Trust me, it has something to do with your spine. But anyway, if I remember correctly. Then it says, hence, their travels are more honest and accurate the more remote the country described. I would place implicit confidence in an Englishman's description of the regions beyond the cataracts of the Nile. Let me read that again. I would place implicit confidence in an Englishman's description of the regions beyond the cataracts of the Nile, of unknown islands in the Yellow Sea, of the interior of India, or of any other tract which other travelers might be apt to picture out with the illusions of their fancy. But I would cautiously receive his account of his immediate neighbors and of those nations which he is in habits of most frequent intercourse. However, I might be disposed to trust his probity. I dare not trust his prejudices. It has also been the peculiar lot of our country to be visited by the worst kind of English travelers. While men of philosophical spirit and cultivated minds have been sent from England to ransack the poles, to penetrate the deserts, and to study the manners and customs of barbarous nations with which she can have no permanent intercourse of profit or pleasure, it has been left to the broken down tradesman, the scheming adventurer, the wandering mechanic, the Manchester and Birmingham agent to be her oracles respecting America. For such sources, or from such sources, she is content to receive her information respecting a country in a singular state of moral and physical development. A country in which one of the greatest political experiments in the history of the world is now performing, and which presents the most profound and monumentous studies of a statesman, or to the statesman and the philosopher. That such men should give prejudiced accounts of America is not a matter of surprise. The themes it offers for contemplation are too vast and elevated for their capacities. Sorry, I haven't read this before, and I'm working with it. Okay, um, for their capacities. The national character is yet in a state of fermentation. It may have its frothiness and sentiment, but its ingredients are sound and wholesome. It has already given proofs of powerful and generous qualities, and the whole promises to settle down into something substantially excellent. But the causes which are operating to strengthen and ennoble it, and its daily indications of um, admirable properties, are all lost upon those purblind observers who are only affected by the little asperities incident to its present situation. They are capable. Let me spell that word in case you guys have never heard it, because I've never heard it. It's Asperities. Asperities. Nobody better not call me right now. My phone is not on do not disturb, but I will put it on there. Okay. So it says They are capable of judging only of the surface of things, of of those matters which come in contact with their private interest and personal gratifications. They miss some of the snug conveniences and petty comforts which belong to an old, highly finished, and overpopulous state of society, where the ranks of useful labor are crowded, and many earn a painful and servile subsistence mhm, um, by studying the various capriciouses of appetite and self-indulgence. These minor comforts, however, are all important in the estimation of narrow minds, which whether I'm sorry, y'all, I'm struggling here, which either do not perceive or will not acknowledge that they are more than counterbalanced among us by great and generally diffused blessings. They may perhaps have been disappointed in some unreasonable expectation of sudden gain. They may have pictured America to themselves an El Dorado, where gold and silver abounded, and the natives were lacking the sagacity, and where they were to become strangely and suddenly rich in some unforeseeable but easy manner. The same weakness of mind that indulges absurd expectations produces petulance in disappointment. Such persons become embittered against the country on finding that there, as everywhere else, a man must sow before he can reap, must win wealth by industry and talent, and must contend with the common difficulties of nature and the shrewdness of an intellectual and enterprising people. Perhaps though mistaken or ill-directed hospitality, or from the prompt disposition to cheer and countenance the stranger prevalent among my countrymen, they have been treated with unwonted respect in America, and have been accustomed all their lives to consider themselves below the surface of good society, and brought up in a servile feeling of inferiority. They become arrogant on the common boon of civility. They attribute to the lowliness of others their own elevation, and underrate a society where there are no artificial distinctions, and where by any chance such individuals as themselves can rise to consequence. I hope you guys are understanding this. Okay, you can hear me. Okay. One would surprise, however, I'm sorry, my glasses, my eyes, and my mind. Okay. One would suppose, however, that information coming from some sources on a subject where the truth is so desirable would be received with caution by the censors of the press. That the motives of these men, their veracity, their opportunities of inquiry and observation, and their capacities for judging correctly would be rigorously scrutinized before their evidence was admitted in such sweeping extent against a kindred nation. The very reverse, however, is the case, and it furnishes a striking instance of human inconsistency. Nothing can surpass. Nothing can surpass the vigilance with which English critics will examine the credibility of the traveler who publishes an account of some distant and comparatively unimportant country. How warily will they compare the measurements of a pyramid or the distinct description of a ruin, and how sternly will they censor any inaccuracy in these contributions of merely curious knowledge, while they will receive with eagerness and unhesitating faith the gross misrepresentations of coarse and obscure writers concerning a country with which their own is placed in the most important and delicate relationship or relations. Nay, they will even make these apocryphal volume textbooks on which to enlarge with zeal and an ability worthy of the most generous cause. I shall not, however, deal with this irksome and hackneyed topic. Nor shall I have adverted to it. Wait. Nor should I have averted to it, but for the undue interest apparently taken in it by my countrymen, and certain injurious effects which I apprehend it might produce upon the national feeling. We attach too much consequence to these attacks. They cannot do us any essential injury. The tissue of misrepresentations attempted to be woven round us are like cobwebs woven round the limbs of an infant giant. Our country continually outgrows them. One falsehood after another falls off of itself. We have but to live on, and every day we live a whole volume of refutation. All the writers of England united, if we could for a moment suppose their great minds stooping to so unworthy a combination, could not conceal our rapidly growing importance and matchless prosperity. They could not conceal that these are owing not merely to physical and local, but also to moral causes, to the political liberty, the general diffusion of knowledge, the prevalence of sound, moral, and religious principles, which give force and sustained energy to the character of a people, and which in fact have been the acknowledgement and wonderful supporters of their own national power and glory. But why are we so exquisitely alive to the aspirations of England? I'm sorry, aspersions of England. Why do we suffer ourselves to be so affected by the contumely, contumely or ly, contumely she has endeavored to cast upon us? It is not in the opinion of England alone that honors live and reputation has its being. The world at large is the arbitrator of a nation's fame, and its thousand eyes. I'm sorry, shit. Hold on. But why are we so exquisitely alive to the aspersions of England? Why do we suffer ourselves to be so affected by the contumely as she endeavored to cast upon us? It is not in the opinion of England alone. I'm sorry. It is not in the opinion of England alone that honor lives. The reputation has its being. The world at large is the arbitrator of a nation's fame. With its thousand eyes, it witnesses a nation's deeds, and from their collective testimony is national glory or national disgrace established. For ourselves, therefore, it is comparatively of but little importance whether England does us justice or not. It is perhaps of far more importance to herself. She is instilling anger and resentment into the bosom of a youthful nation to grow with its growth and strengthen with its strength. If in America, as some of her writers have labored, I'm struggling, y'all, hold on. If in America, as some of her writers are laboring to convince her, she is hereafter to find an invidious rival and a gigantic foe. She may think those very writers of having invoked rivalship and irritated hostility. Everyone knows the all-pervading influence of literature at the present day, and how much the opinions and passions of mankind are under its control. The mere contest of the sword are temporary. Their wounds are but in the flesh, and it is the pride of the generous to forgive and forget them. But the slanders of the pen pierce to the heart. They rankle longest in the noblest spirits. They dwell ever present in the mind and render it morbidly sensitive to the most trifling collusions or collisions. It is but seldom that any one overt act produces hostilities between two nations. There exists most commonly a previous jealousy and ill will, a predisposition to take offense. Trace these to their cause, and how often will they be found to originate in the mischievous effusions of mercenary writers, who secure in their closets of and of and for ignominious bread concoct and circulate the venom that is to inflame the generous and the brave. I am not laying too much stress upon this point, for it applies most emphatically to our particular case. Over no nation does the press hold a mere absolute control than over the people of America. For the universal education of the poorest classes makes every individual a reader. There is nothing published in England on the subject of our country that does not circulate through every part of it. There is not a cal- calumny, calumny um, dropped, and that word is Calumny, um, dropped from an English pen, nor an unworthy sarcasm uttered by an English statesman that does not go to blight goodwill and add to the mass of latent resentment. Possessing then, as England does, the fountainhead from whence the literature of the language flows, how completely is it in her power, and how truly is it her duty to make it the medium of amiable and magnanimous feeling, a stream where the two nations might meet together and drink in peace and kindness. Should she, however, persist in turning it to waters of bitterness, the time may come when she may repent her folly. The present friendship of America may be of but little moment to her, but the future destinies of that country do not admit of a doubt. But the future destinies of that country do not admit of a doubt. Over those of England, there lower some shadows of uncertainty. They kill me with some of these readings sometimes, but I get it. Should then a day of gloom arrive, should those reverses overtake her, from which the proudest empires have not been exempt, she may look back with regret at her infatuation in repulsing from her side a nation she might have grappled to her bosom, and thus destroying her only chance for real friendship beyond the boundaries of her own dominions. There is a general impression in England that the people of the United States are inimical to the parent country. It is one of the errors which has been diligently propagated by designing writers. There is doubtless considerable political hostility and a great soreness in the illiberality of the English press, but collectively speaking, the prepossessions of the people are strongly in favor of England. Indeed, at one time they amounted in many parts of the Union and to the absurd degree of bigotry. The bare name of Englishman was a passport to the confidence and hospitality of every family, and too often gave a transient currency to the worthless and the ungrateful. Throughout the country, there was something of enthusiasm connected with the idea of England. We looked to it with a hollow feeling of tenderness and veneration as the land of our forefathers, the august repository of the monuments and antiquities of our race, the birthplace and mausoleum of the sages and heroes of our paternal history. After our own country, there was none in those. Mm. After our own country, there was none of whose glory we more delighted. none whose good opinion we were more anxious to possess, none toward our hearts, none toward which our hearts yearned with such throbbings of worn consanguinity, even during the late war. Whenever there was at the least opportunity for kind feelings to spring forth, it was the delight of the generous spirits of our country to show that in the midst of hostilities they still kept alive the spark of future friendship. It is all, is all this to be at an end? Is this golden band of hundred sympathies? I'm sorry, I'm really struggling here. Is this golden band of kindred sympathies, so rare between nations, to be broken forever? Perhaps it is for the best. It may dispel an illusion which might have kept us in mental vassalage, which might have interfered occasionally with our true interest and prevented the growth of proper national pride. But it is hard to give up the kindred tie, and there are feelings dearer than interest, closer to the heart than pride, that will still make us cast back a look of regret as we wander further and further from the paternal roof and lament the waywardness of the parent that will repel the affections of the child. Short-sighted and injudicious, sorry, short-sighted and injudicious, however, as the conduct of England may be in this system of aspersion, recrimination on our part would be equally ill judged. I speak not of the prompt and spirited vindication of our country or of the kindest castigation of her slanderers, but I allude to a disposition to retaliate in kind, to retort sarcasm and inspire prejudice, which seems to be spreading widely among our writers. Let us guard particularly against such a temper, for it would double the evil instead of redressing the wrong. Nothing is so easy and inviting as the retort of abuse and sarcasm, but it is a paltry and unprofitable contest. It is the alternative of a morbid mind, fretted into petulance, rather than warmed in indignation. If England is willing to permit the mean jealousies of trade or the rancorous animosities of politics to deprive the integrity of her press, to poison the fountain of public opinion, let us beware of her example. She may deem it her interest to diffuse error and engender antipathy for the purpose of checking emigration. We have no purpose of the kind to serve. Neither have we any spirit of national jealousy to gratify, for as yet, in all our rivalship with England, we are the rising and the gaining party. There can be no end to answer. Hold on, family. I hope y'all okay. I'm having trouble, y'all. I am really having trouble. Rolling on the floor. Want to be intellectual? Yeah, let me help you. There you go. Rob, you're just not welcome over here, okay? Go play with your own folks, all right? I'm sure you got something to teach them that they don't know already. But please stay the fuck out my chat, okay? Sorry, I'm plugging up my phone real quick. Um, the different reads that I've done recently is really wearing on me. If I would have read this right after the last one that I read on Washington Irving, I probably would have been a little better because I would have had that rhythm. Right now, I don't have it. And again, this is my first read. of this. So, all right, so let me get back to where I was at. Okay, let's start this one more time. It is the alternative of a morbid mind, fretted into petulance rather than warmed into indignation. If England is willing to permit the meanest jealousies of trade or the rancorous animosities of politics to deprave the integrity of her press and poison the fountain of public opinion, let us beware of her example. She may deem it her interest to diffuse error and engender antipathy for the purpose of checking immigration. We have no purpose of the kind to serve. Neither have we any spirit of national jealousy to gratify, for as yet, in all the rivalship with England, we are the rising and the gaining party. There can be no end to answer, therefore, but the gratification of resentment, a mere spirit of retaliation, and even that is impotent or impotent. Our retorts are never republished in England. They fall short, therefore, of their aim, but they foster a querulous and peevish temper among our writers. They sour the sweet flow of our early literature and sow thorns and brambles among its blossoms. What is still worse, they circulate through our own country and, as far as they have effect, excite virulent national prejudices. This last is the most evil, especially to the deprecated. Um, mm. Governed as we are entirely by public opinion, the utmost care should be taken to preserve the purity of the public mind. My headset's going out, y'all. We're going to try. We got a few more pages, so we're going to lose this headset. Um, Knowledge is power, and truth is knowledge. Whoever therefore knowingly propagates a prejudice willfully saps the foundation of his country's strength. The members of a republic, above all other men, should be candid and dispassionate. They are individually portions of the sovereign mind and sovereign will, and should be enabled to come to all questions of national concern with calm and unbiased judgments. From the peculiar nature of our relations with England, we must have more frequent questions of a difficult and delicate character with her than with any other nation, questions that affect the most acute and excitable feelings, and as in the adjusting of these, our national measures must ultimately be determined by popular sentiment. We cannot be too anxiously attentive to purify it from all latent passion or prepossession. Opening to, as we do, an asylum for strangers from every portion of the earth, we should receive all with impartiality. It should be our pride to exhibit an example of one nation, at least destitute of national apathies, and exercising not merely the overt acts of hospitality, but those more rare and noble courtesies which spring from liberality of opinion. What we, what have we to do with national prejudices? They are the inveterate diseases of old countries, contracted in rude and ignorant ages, when nations knew but little of each other and looked beyond their own borders with disgust and hostility. We, on the contrary, have sprung into national existence in an enlightened and philosophic age, when the different parts of the habitable world and the various branches of the human family have been indefatigably studied and made known to each other, and we forego the advantages of our birth if we do not shake off the national prejudices as we would the local superstitions of the old world. But above all, let us not be influenced by any angry feeling, okay, so far as to shut our eyes to the perception of what is really excellent and amiable in the English character. We are a young people, necessarily an imitative one, and must take our examples and models in a great degree from the existing nations of Europe. There is no country more worthy of our study than England. The spirit of her constitution is most analogous to ours. The manners of her people, their intellectual activity, their freedom of opinion, their habits of thinking on those subjects which concern the dearest interest and most sacred charities of private life, are all congenial to the American character, and in fact are all intrinsically excellent. For it is in the moral feeling of the people that the deep foundation of British prosperity are laid, and however the superstructure may be time worn or overrun by abuses, there must be something solid in the basis, admirable in the materials, and stable in the structure of an that so long lies. Edifice that so long has towered unshaken amid the tempests of the world. Let it be the pride of our writers, therefore, discarding all feelings of irritation and disdaining to retaliate the illiberality of British writers, to speak of the English nation without prejudice and with determined candor. While they rebuke the indiscriminating bigotry with which some of our countrymen admire and imitate everything English merely because it is English, let them frankly point out what is really worthy of approbation. We may thus place England before us in a perpetual volume of reference, wherein are recorded sound deductions of ages of experience, and while we avoid the errors and absurdities which may have crept into the page, we may draw thence golden maxims of practical wisdom, wherewith to strengthen and to embellish our national character. The next section would be the rural life in England. Okay, so I got past that. Sorry about the struggling over it. I never read that before. Okay, okay. So, oh, Shy Sun was in here too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he gonna call me all kind of names. Watch the trolls. I mean, it is what it is. But thank you for timing them out, y'all. That's why y'all got riches, to protect yourselves and to protect this channel as well. Okay. Um, but here now, I know that some of this may have rubbed some people wrong because it's like, oh, they want us to praise England. Think about it as far as yourself is concerned. Again, we didn't get the right shit. Okay, like they said, they could go way across here into some distant place and say the most beautiful things and take the most time to calculate how this structure is made up. But when you get up close and personal, black on black crime, white on white crime, American war, whatever the case is, you the most hostile and prejudiced towards the ones closest to you. And not praising England in this regard, we still have to look at ourselves, while knowing that this enemy is in our midst, one that wants to manipulate our minds to always think these hostile thoughts toward our neighbor. Because when we do that, we don't look at the situation correctly. Okay, the one hardest place, if y'all saw me saying it yesterday, I said, I'm not neutral, but I know the threshold. Okay, so one of the hardest places is to get into that neutral position and to give both sides equal play over your own prejudices or your own experiences or whatever the case is. But that's what we have to do sometimes, especially in a so-called racist environment where say, hey, don't be racist against black folks. We don't want them to be prejudiced and racist and all this other shit against us. We want what we want. But by the same token, like with this situation with Anthony, well, don't look at him this way. But I remember back in the day, one of my white friends got hit by beat up by a black man. So now you take that experience and you put it on this situation. And we got to avoid that if we want to be responsible and trying, at the very least, trying to counter what the press has done in our day and age. First, you got to believe the devil fucking existed. And then you got to fucking believe that eh, you like him because he don't give you nothing. Okay? So, this isn't just to say, look at Navi, she up here praising the white man and praising England, and she really believed this white folks. That's lowball ass thinking. Okay? I'm trying to suss out this information to see what's the best about it. Okay? And what we can use, what I can use, if y'all don't use it, but what I can use to push it forward. And in all of this shit that we're doing, for those of you who are here and those of you who are listening, we don't do this shit by ourselves. You know, when I was growing up, we talked about being links in a chain. We talked about you're only as strong as your weakest link. You know, and then we don't even talk about chains no more, because every time you start talking about chains, it becomes this shit about slave chains and Statue of Liberty chains and all this, and Mr. T's chains and Floyd Mayweather's chains, some shit like that. But we talked about linking up and doing what we needed to do, because you can't attack a force that's ready to do what they need to do for the people. We're kind of seeing that, hey, when they told us to be violent by any means necessary, it wasn't necessarily 100% true. And when they told us to be nonviolent, it wasn't 100% true. We're going to do what we need to do wherever that is. But we can learn from the past and do it honestly. What we see here in this reading, and I don't know if y'all saw it, and maybe I might have got it wrong, but I saw a person, regardless of whether he told the truth, told a lie, and other stories, this, that, and the other, I saw people that believed in the human spirit, that believed in us as a people, no matter your skin color. He said prejudices, but he didn't say a damn thing about race. Okay, in that instance. Okay, but when it comes to the press, that's what we get a lot of, because they know, like iRobot, that we're going to group up a certain way. Okay, and if y'all remember that scene where he asked, why do they group up like that? It was these old robots versus these new robots versus a human being in the midst. It's the same shit. Okay, I hope that we can learn something from this. And I know I struggled over this reading. This was Washington Irving's talking about, the press, or the American writers. Let me get the title, because Writers of American Literature or something like that, which he says we don't have a lot. Okay, because who controls the system? English writers in America. Okay, English writers in America. These are the ones that told the stories. Some of these stories were lies. Okay, some of the truthful stories get pushed under the rug, and even when they do come out, they don't get a whole lot of traction. But if nothing else, we have a great responsibility right now to start to help people to understand, not some cultural agenda and not some fucking political agenda, but what it really is, so they too, our future, our posterity, can stand with their toes on the ground and make right decisions for one or the other one, and not be extreme on either one. And if we do this for our people, then we can link up with other people who can do the same to make the best decisions. Y'all might not like it. Y'all might not like when she said it, when she sung it, but it is a truth, or she or he sung it. The children are our future, because I'm somebody's child from long ago, and you guys are somebody's child, from long ago as well. And we're going to have children that come in here and they need our help now. Okay, we got to build the fence now. We got to build the stairway now. We got to build the building now. The building of thought, common sense, generosity, love. We can't let that shit be torn down, because we make all the sacrifices that our ancestors did in vain when we do. Your cultural prejudices and agendas, your political prejudices and agendas, your storytelling and myth making, and your religious fervor because you getting ready to get a piece of the pie or whatever the case, it's got to be put on the back burner. Sit that shit in the closet. Let somebody open that shit up another day and give this generation a chance to do what they need to do to step into the affairs of men. Understand when a motherfucker is playing with you. Okay? Because see, y'all saw Rob Noxious come over here, and I don't know what all he said in there or how all he did that and anybody else that's in here. But these same people, him and Shy's son, will say they're mad at Abos for doing this and for lying about that and this, that, and the other. But in this post, I didn't do any of that. I just told what is, read what was, tried to explain where I'm at. And they still over here trying to ridicule. This is how motherfucker plays you. This is how they get young people to do stupid shit because they don't want to be shown up. That's the problem of our community. Okay? Niggas playing nigga games even when they ain't a nigga. I'm just saying. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. My Tourette's kicked in. Y'all forgive me. This channel is not for children, okay? But it's meant to help the children and the young folks. So, family, that's it. That's all I wanted to pose. Y'all check out Middle Nation. Be aware of this falsity and religious narrative that comes in here, kind of like with Mayweather. He's Hebrew Israelite, and they think they got carte blanche from the religious thing. Okay. Notice how the religion is playing into everything. And if you have faith, keep it to yourself. Okay. We're not here to challenge your faith. Okay. That's not what this is about. So keep it to yourself. Okay. Because that's the shit that they pull. Um, anyway, y'all know the history. But look at those things. Look at what that white dude, that Arab dude, whatever fuck he is, Muslim dude, what's his name? Rashid Bolston is saying right now, and it falls along the same lines. And don't fall for the political tug of war that's going on, because that's what they need you to do. A person put up some stuff about what's her name, Crockett, Jasmine Crockett, and I was like, okay, where's he going? Where's this person going with that? And I said, okay, it sounds like he getting ready to attack Jasmine Crockett. So I jumped out in the chat and said, shout out to Jasmine Crockett. And then what was presented that she said, it was like, see, she trying to tell you what's up, but y'all feel a certain way. Oh, she a Democrat and she against Trump, or he's a Republican and he's against the Democrat. Put that shit aside, okay? That's the political tug of war that keep you from seeing what the real game is, all right? So, what you say, Alexis? And he was English, so he was just saying the press controlling the narrative. And it's still true today. Media controls the minds of the people. Yes. Anyone who wants to take up that mantle, just in their private research, go look at journalism, the history of journalism, and not from the official sources. That dude gave us a good place to hop into when he gave us about the Scripps dynasty. And I'm telling you, the Western Associated Press, go search that shit out. Okay? Because then you're going to see how all this stuff played into this, as well as the American Antiquarian Society and how stuff got out into the public and blah, blah, blah. Okay? It's all going to tie hand in hand. Let's sit down Indian style and fold our hands. And yeah, that part. Anyway, family, I'm going to get off of here. I appreciate you guys for coming. I'm going to go see if Bethy is up yet. And y'all might see me over there because, a little bit of this I want to present as far as just in the chat, just as counters in the chat, or support in the chat for this stance I have on the Constitution. I'm not getting rid of the Constitution in my mind, okay? Because what the fuck else do you have to put in place? Some foreign shit, or some treaties that have not been honored, some of which were created by people who didn't have a right to make a treaty? What else do you put in place? Some secret society where you can't tell people what it is and how to do it because you're part of some group? What do you have in place of it? Some one-sided patriarchal sexist shit where, like this dude Shahid Balsam said, women aren't nothing but bodies and objects to be ignored and stuff like that, like props. I ain't nobody's fucking prop. Okay? And some of you motherfuckers, excuse my language, should be real pissed off about being propped up. Okay? The world is a stage. It surely is. So, family, I'm out of here. See y'all around these YouTube streets. When the inspiration hits me again or I want to talk to y'all, I'll be back. Just keep your eye out for my little link coming up. So, peace, family. Y'all have a great day. Enjoy your Monday. Peace.